this one isn't considered as good as the previous three. That's ridiculous. I understand why people think that way. Although I also think that this is a case of there's too much publicized drama associated with this album, and so people feel a certain sort of loyalty to the group, and, you know, aside from along with the group's public statements, contribute to a dismissal of this album, which doesn't make much sense to me. If the group had said this was their best album, I can guarantee you there'd be people coming out saying, oh, you know what, in hindsight, yeah, it is their best album. Like, ridiculous. In my humble opinion, this was the perfect sequel to a trilogy which began with The Low End Theory. Some consider this a return to boom bap as opposed to a more bass heavy flavor on Midnight Marauders. I can hear that, although I don't know if that's just something people are projecting because they're looking for reasons just to dismiss this album. Because what we've got here is it feels like the production stepped up. They've acknowledged music is moving on. Their stakes is high if we're going to compare them to De La Soul. They've acknowledged that the conscious hip-hop is a thing, and they've, rather than feel like they're out of place, they look around and they go, why should we be considered any different from these guys? The fact that these, I think, acts like a Tribe Called Quest. I don't know about De La Soul. I didn't know how they felt, but I think they saw accusations that they were not conscious or socially aware enough as kind of absurd, ridiculous, and superficial. But just to, address that, they decided to put out Beats, Rhymes, and Life to contribute some more serious music to the genre, as people were seemingly demanding of them in more cred circles. And they released their best album, so be it. And stakes is high. I know Noel Oakeshott considers it the best De La Soul album. I'm more partial to one of them, 2 or 3, but 4's pretty wonderful as well, to be fair. So I've heard the group are not getting along on Beats, Rhymes, and Life. I have to be honest with you, I wouldn't have known unless it was just this bandwagon nonsense on the internet and YouTube comments and rate your music. And everyone loves the idea of just agreeing with the consensus, and they're like, they see everyone, like, agreeing with a thing, and they're like, oh, I can't wait to agree with that. And so they listen to the album, and they're like, oh, yeah, I hear that too. And it's just like, no, you didn't. This album has been so unfairly maligned. And I'd like anyone... This is the first opportunity. I'm offering people a chance to be the very, very first individual to compose, to write up a compelling, logical, articulate case for why this was a step down. You can make history. Be the first to make a fucking coherent statement that isn't just nonsense. I understand with the group, it might remind them of bad times in their life. At times that weren't as happy as the making of the first 3 albums. But for goodness sake, is that... Oh, when has that ever been a problem for the... Only the Beatles are getting on swimmingly during the White Album. ELP got along great. It's ridiculous. Pink Floyd are famous for being, buddy-buddy. Like, come on. The idea that, the group's in conflict, the music has to be bad as a result. There's no other time in music history where we pretend this is the case, except when we just want to not have to listen to a Tribe Called Quest album for some reason. It's just like, I'm too lazy to form an opinion of this that isn't someone else's. Fuck you. They're as brilliant as ever here. It was that 98 album where they really, really fucked up, unfortunately. That doesn't even sound like them. And I can appreciate the idea of Tribe attempting something new and going on this bold, brave, kind of exciting new experiment, something that they were looking forward to, rather than just rehashing something that they weren't interested in going over again. But ultimately, I feel like it was an experiment which they were excited for, but ultimately didn't yield any interesting results. They just nothing came out that was worthwhile in the grand scheme of music history, or what was contemporary to 1998. I think it's 98 with the Love album. It's an unfortunate time. However, I will stand by. I think the group peaked here. I really do. I feel like there's more of a soundscape going on with the tracks, the production on the individual tracks, rather than these reliance on hooks, which we can note across the first 3 albums. They're glorious added on those albums. I just think what they were going on for here is just more interesting, really. Let me know if this wasn't the opinion I was supposed to have, although at least it was, an opinion. See, parrots are quite clever. They've also taught them to publish music reviews, apparently, on the internet. But I am not a parrot. I am a human being, damn it! Thank you for persevering if you have. Thanks again, my good and dear friends.